This episode of Gareth Jones on Speed is brought to you by Sutil Champagne. The only champagne that guarantees you heavy bleeding from the neck. Ow! Sorry. Welcome to Gareth Jones on Speed. I'm Gareth. He's Zog.
Hello.
And this is the man who has no name. I'm not going to give you a name on this programme because you've spent, a long weekend driving one of the loveliest cars you could hope for, you big sod.
Charming.
And I've always liked the Ford car. And I'm deeply envious that you've driven around in the Ford car.
I think it's an underrated small car. Great use of the Fiat Panda component set.
Oh no, hang on a moment. It wasn't the Ford car that you've been driving around in that was bothering me. It was that big Aston Martin, you big sod.
Yeah,
Which one was
that's
it?
True. I had an Aston Martin V12 Vantage.
Hang on, let's just pause a minute. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's enough. An Aston Martin V12 Vantage.
And I've just been looking at pictures of it, and crikey, it's orange.
It really was orange.
More orangey than the Sniff Petrol website?
Well, yeah, I've never quite achieved a pearlescent effect on Sniff Petrol, and this is what this Aston had. It had a very nice sort of depth to, but fundamentally that didn't in any way diminish the sheer brightness of the colour. And part of me thinks I'm always slightly embarrassed because a car like that is a bit showy-offy anyway.
Oh, yeah.
And then you have it in a showy-offy colour. Does that make it worse, or does that just sort of embrace the showy-offiness and go, look, I could have had it in grey or black, but
Well,
for goodness sake, it makes a right old noise and it has a certain sort of presence to it.
You're the right guy to ask. Were you relaxed with it?
Initially, I was a little uncomfortable, and then, very quickly, I realised that people liked that car for reasons that I can't quite explain fully.
It does look fantastic.
Well, it does look fantastic. And the reaction you just got from people in other cars, cab drivers particularly, seem to really like it. And they can be pretty uncompromising on the road and cut people up and all sorts.
Did they let you in?
Yeah, and it was my fault as well. I'd sort of stupidly got into the wrong lane and got behind someone who was trying to do a right turn around St John's Wood. And normally you then say, I'll put the left indicator on, please, somebody let me through before the light turns red again. And I've done it myself. Go, no, you've made a tactical error there. You should have spotted the car ahead was indicating and
That's exactly what I do. I'm sniffy and I
and
never
I'm
let
like,
it.
no,
I'm
you
an
didn't
absolute
think ahead.
boss.
You're an idiot. But, I was in the car with a mate and we were talking and I wasn't paying full attention to the fact that the guy in front, at the last minute, put his indicator on. Idiot. And so I sort of still blame him. But what happened was I'll try and move out, please let me out. Black cab driver not only sort of let me go, but gave me a big smile and a big thumbs up and let me in.
Wow.
So
you
you've
like
had
the car.
You've had some positive prejudice.
Well,
towards it.
a man outside a newsagent chaining up his bicycle shouted the most extraordinary
I want to have your
swear words.
Oh, really?
But brilliant swear words where basically normal endorsement of the car wasn't
this wasn't
enough.
abuse. This wasn't
he
abuse.
Had, no, he had
This
to
was...
pepper it with the F-bomb mainly just to express how much he liked my effing awesome car. That's effing cool, mate. Effing nice
there
one.
we have it.
So it was incredible. And
I suppose there's a tipping point, isn't there? If you go to this gorgeous pearlescent orange on such a wonderful car, it's gone beyond silver, it's gone beyond Ferrari red. It's making a very positive statement, like you say, embracing the visibility of the car.
I think that's it. I think that must be it.
Yeah.
That people just go, look, you've got a flash car and you're not embarrassed about it. Fair play, which is odd.
It's never going to blend into the background, is it?
No, it's not.
Never
Exactly.
It's quite noisy,
Yeah.
and it is quite dramatic looking because compared to the V8 Vantage, which is the smallest Aston, they've put different sills on it, and it's got a front splitter, and it's got bigger wheels, and it has these carbon fibre vents in the bonnet and carbon fibre side strakes on the little gills in the wings.
It's got a heck of a crease down the side. hasn't
Yeah,
it?
well, they all have that, but I think it just
the orange
sort of
really showed it up,
everything,
maybe.
yeah, but everything it sort of looks lower to the road. I mean, it is actually quite a low car, there's not much ground clearance on it, and speed bumps are interesting. But
awkward.
yeah, that's only when you're in London, really. I took it out into Wales, and it was absolutely magnificent.
Wouldn't notice
Since you're on
it
speed
Wales.
bumps, what speed could you go over the average London speed bump in?
Don't know, I was too busy wincing.
Without it slamming down at the front?
I
Because
picked my route.
find it...
I just picked my route, and I knew that I would always take main roads, even if it would take longer. None of the rat runs, none of the little things, because some of the speed bumps, you know, there's rules about how tall speed bumps are supposed to be. Councils in London don't give a flying monkeys about that, and loads of them are not within code. And sometimes you'll see someone will complain enough, they'll put a little sort of sub-tarmac ramp just in front of it, a little sort of entry ramp, because they're so huge, and I couldn't go over any of those, so I just chose main roads. But there are some places where it's almost unavoidable. You're going to hit what they call speed cushions.
Yeah.
And with a lot of cars, you straddle them, and if you've got a wide enough track on a car, your wheels slip either side. But with the Aston, that would also then make your front splitter smack into them.
So you have to go with one wheel. Which is,
and the big speed bumps at the back of the BBC and the way into the car park, which are those ones where they're so big they've essentially got like a sort of pavement across the top, and you just attack those at an angle. I discovered was the best technique, just to minimise that chance of like noise, which goes through you because it's a carbon fibre splitter front there. Oh, expensive.
What was the Aston with the V12 engine based on the DB7? Was that the DB9? What was
there's
that?
a DB7 V12.
DB7 V12. I've driven one of those around where I live here in North London, and we are, exactly as you said, speed bump to hell, and it was horrible. Rob, the guy who had the car, every time I went, everyone went, no, there's an awful lot of mass at the front. The big Walkinshaw engine is fighting.
Walkinshaw?
The V12, it's a development of Walkinshaw's two Mondeo engines.
Yeah,
originally.
that wasn't really Walkinshaw, that was Ford in the
it?
US who did it for, I think, a concept car called the Indigo.
Yes.
And they welded two V6s
Johnny
together.
Herbert drove it.
Johnny Herbert drove it?
Yeah, drove the Indigo, yeah.
Did he? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So, no, it's a two Ford. I mean, it's not. You know, it's one of those things where people say that and you couldn't...
Yeah.
If you actually welded two V6s together, it wouldn't quite
I think
work
it might have a weird sort of harmony thing going on there. Yeah. Although, I was talking the other day to someone, do you remember a car called the Cizetta V16T?
Cizetta, isn't it?
Cizetta
Moroder.
Exactly, with Giorgio Moroder.
Giorgio Moroder paid for it out of the money from Electric Dreams, didn't he?
Yeah.
Seriously? Yeah.
Or soundtrack to, well, one of them.
Or soundtrack to Never-Ending Story, was it? No, what was it?
Didn't you Midnight Express? No, that was Tangerine Dream? No,
your special subject.
But he did. Anyway, back to cars.
It had a transverse V16 engine, but it was effectively two V8s stuck together because the gearbox came off the engine longitudinally in the middle of the crank. So it was really just two V8s stuck together. I've never heard one running, but I bet it sounded weird.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And what kind of, engineering bravura is that to sort of to have the gearbox in the middle of the two engines?
I know. It's madness. I think it's because Mr. Cizetta went to Giorgio Moroder, what would you like to do? And he went, I don't know, can we do like two V8s stuck together with the gearbox coming off the middle? And they go, yeah, of course. It's only later he went, hang on a minute,
that's never
he's a
work.
synthesizer-based musician and producer. He doesn't know anything about engineering. He just got a lot of money off Donna Summer for something. Anyway, the Aston, on the other hand,
what sound did it make?
Makes the most fantastic sound.
Can you do an impression of it?
I'll do an impression of when he started up.
Yeah.
Bang!
Oh!
I like that.
That wasn't a very good impression, but you get the idea. Just it's interesting because it's one of those ones where clearly it's programmed in to do that. It's another reason why it's a very showy, offy car, And then it rumbles along. It makes a lot of noise. It makes a terrific noise at high revs. But what is odd about it is at low revs it quietens down. But also, one of the things with the V8 Vantage is that it doesn't have a lot of torque. Even when they took the engine out to 4.7 from the original 4.3. Just wasn't a particularly torquey engine. Needed a lot of revs, made a lot of noise, and seemingly didn't do as much as the noise suggested it was supposed to be doing. Still a quick car, but not super quick. The V12 is mind-meltingly quick car. It's just so... I don't think I ever used full throttle in it completely because that's just insane. I really nailed it away from the toll bridge on the Severn crossing just because it was the sort of first chance I thought, I'll give this a bit of... And a mate of mine was in the car with me, was reduced to sort of flailing his arms in front of him as he was grabbing for an invisible rail on the dashboard to hold himself forward because he was being mashed into the seat. Yeah. It's that kind of car, really just extraordinary performance. But the thing about it that sets it apart from the V8 is you can whack it into fourth at like 10 miles an hour. You could get into sixth at like 20, and it would just slowly build. It's that sort of V12. It's a unique quality of every V12 I've ever experienced has, that they are really, really gutsy, torquey engines, and they just have that seamless pull, and they never feel like they're sort of, it's all shaking on its mountings. It's constantly happy to be just lugging like a train.
Flappy paddles?
Nope, manual, sir. 6-speed.
Get out!
Nice box on it. The reason that I was lent this car by Aston Martin is because I wrote something rude about Aston Martin in Evo a couple of times.
I must give it a try sometime.
I know.
I hate all Bentleys.
Just go into pubs and go, your beer's all horrid and smells of poo, until they
Have some free ale, Mr.
give you
Porter.
free ale, maybe some crisps. It doesn't work like that, I think.
Sure.
But we could try it
Let's give it a
sometime.
shot.
Really hate old Lanciers. I can't stand Bentleys or anything made by Lotus. Oh, they're terrible cars.
You know what I hate?
What?
I absolutely hate a couple of weeks in Barbados. Hate it. Hate it.
What do you
Probably.
hate, Zog? Something to do with Scarlett Johansson?
I'm not very keen on Keira Knightley, actually.
No, okay.
Yeah.
I hope the Keira Knightley press office doesn't try to lend you a Keira Knightley.
No.
Oh, hang on, Keira Knightley. Sorry, I was thinking. Why was I thinking of the Ford Focus? I don't know. So, I just also compared a very beautiful actress to a sort of fairly ordinary hatchback. That's a bit rude.
I'm offended on Keira's behalf.
As well, you should be. No, don't, because you hate her. Remember?
That's true. Yes.
Did you have her permanently, or did you have her on Lindsay Lohan? Thank you.
Don't forget
So-
to be waitress.
Where were we?
You were driving a big orange Aston Martin.
just very quickly.
Across Wales, yes.
So, just to wrap this up, it's a fabulous car, but the things that we're interested about, first of all, it was sort of actually, I don't think you'd have one as your everyday car, because if you lived in a city, the speed bumps and things would grind you down and literally grind your front spoiler of expensiveness down. But
It's made out of
it's
gold.
amazing how easy it was to live with, even with the manual box, quite a heavy clutch on it, but a lovely smooth gear change on it, and you could just sort of short shift it around the city, changing up at almost no revs, and it would just pull, and it was happy, and it was loved seemingly by all who saw it, which was nice and was surprising, and even to the point it's got me a weird internet stalker, because my friend of mine, I don't know what he was doing, reading the Aston Martin section on Pistonhead's website, but he sent me a link just today when the car went back and said there's no hiding place, and somebody had spotted the Aston parked outside my flat last night and said to whoever it is that's got this car and given sort of half the reg number, said bright orange V12 Vantage, parked and sort of named my street, and said good choice. And then somebody else correctly clocked it as the current Aston Martin press car.
That's it.
Yeah.
And sort of led to a bit of discussion, but I was like, oh my god, people can't ignore that car. And it was parked outside last night, and I had the blinds open on the living room a little bit, and the number of people I saw stopping and having a look at it. And a mother, we came out, we were just going out, and there was a little boy doing what a lot of little boys did when they saw that car, which is sort of stopping and yanking on their mother's hand to stop, go, I want to look at it more. And she was pulling him away, and she was going, but then you would have to insure it in case you had a crash, and that would be very expensive as well. And sort of trying to put a downer on the fact that this poor kid is probably like all of 6 or 7
Fallen in love.
had fallen in love with that car, and it's amazing. You think, of course, but I did that when I was a kid, and that's the thing. And you realise, and this is my final Jerry Springer style concluding remark, that it was a wonderful car. It is, as far as I'm concerned, the best as a driver's car that Aston Martin make. It's incredible. The grip, the brakes, the noise, the power, performance, it is spot on almost. Ride's a little bit firm, but the handling is incredible, so we'll give it that. Otherwise, couldn't fault it. I thought it was terrific to drive. But more than that, cars like that, and particularly in bright colours like that, I think enrich our world. And anyone who has even an inch of interest in cars sees them, and it makes you a bit happy because they're a rarity, they're special. I got this sense that people were actually quite happy to see that car, and by extension happy for me, even though of course it's not my bloody car and I can't afford a car like that, but to feel, even for a moment, part of that world, that you were bringing a little moment of excitement to small children, and making men chaining up their bicycles outside newsagents develop Tourette's and shout at you with excitement was wonderful. I think it makes the world a better place, and let's celebrate cars like that, because there's not that many.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Well, this is the
Amen.
right place for that. Amen, brothers. But can I ask a question? How many gallons to the mile? He said carefully.
I zeroed the computer when I got it, and I had it for 5 days. A whole mix of driving in London, load of motorway, load of A and B roads around the countryside, and it averaged in total something like 13.5 miles to the gallon.
That's not too bad. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, people would
worse.
say it's terrible, but
Yeah,
for that, it's not too
that's
bad.
what I mean. Yes,
It's like a Range Rover.
They don't sell. They sell a handful of those cars.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
for the general good that they do in just bringing joy, I think it's worth a little bit of petrol being burned. And anyway, in a future episode of Gareth Goes on Speed, I'm going to explain how I am offsetting my carbon footprint.
I know this.
That could be an interesting discussion.
Yes.
Oh, yes,
But
yes,
that'll
yes.
come later. Whoa. Quiet, guys, quiet. I think someone might want to buy a signet. Nobody move. Is the phone actually on the hook? I'll check. Yeah, it's working. Oh, God, what if you were trying to call when I lifted it up? Oh, it's okay. They'll call back. Quiet, I've got to hear if the signet order phone rings. Any second now. Oh, God.
Yes, Central! With Gareth Jones on speed!
Gets to the end of May, and I actually get a bit twitchy about Le Mans. I'm very pleased to say that we've each, all three of us now, managed to sort out that we will definitely be at Le Mans this year. You're going on the under train, aren't you, Richard? Am I
That's right, yeah.
Because you have to get back for work on Monday.
Yes.
Whereas Zog and I will be going in an interesting German saloon.
Yep.
In fact, not an interesting German saloon, an interesting German car. That's all I'm saying at this point. And we'll be camping at the campsite by the Porsche Curves where we were last year. If you want to come and join us, book quick at Travel Destinations. Because we had a ball Sunday evening, actually.
Yeah, it was a very good vibe on the campsite, and it was very well run, and good spot to be, handy for the main entrance to the track, if you like, handy for the Porsche Curves. Yeah.
And while I'm on, can I give a little plug for some of the stuff coming up? In the build-up to Le Mans, we shot a bit of video at Le Mans last year, which will appear on the Auto Express website. And then full-length, if you like, feature versions of all that stuff will appear as Gareth Jones on Speed video podcasts leading up to the race in the next couple of weeks anyway. So we're sharing our love of the race with some material. It's going to be a heck of a race again this year. Off the top of your head, Audi or Peugeot or someone else?
I agree, Audi or Peugeot or someone else.
But no, always read a joke.
It's hard to call. When they had the Le Mans test day, I thought it really looked like Audi would be favourites because it was the first time we'd seen the new Audi running, and super quick.
Have you seen
it?
And
right at the start of its development,
yes, looks like a sinister thing.
Yeah, it does.
Sinister. Those spins actually on both the Peugeot and the Audi. Yeah, there's something sort of. It's like a Doctor Who villainish about it. It's almost not Silurian, but there's some kind of alien bad guy with a sort of really thin Mohican off the back of his head, and that's what's going on that car. You know what I mean, don't you?
A whiff of the night about them.
Yes.
They're just like those races.
But Audi looking super quick, so it's just really good to see, particularly after Audi had qualified so strongly at Spa, that in the race Peugeot beat them, which I think means that it's going to be a really cracking contest come June.
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting how the Audi is sort of returned to that black and grey and silver, that when Audi first put together a car for Le Mans in contemporary times, it was a closed coupe. Was it called the R6? I can't even remember.
R8C, wasn't it?
R8C.
Wasn't it?
Good lad for knowing that.
I think. Or R8C Spider or something. No, sorry, the Spider was the opening. I think the R8C was the closed
They
one,
canned it very quickly. They changed their mind about having a closed car and went to an open car very quickly.
And then the closed one sort of became the Bentley a few years later.
That's right, And now this thing has appeared very, very flat and square, not so Group C round as the previous one, but impressive looking car. And the Peugeot, it could be economical if it's going to be reliable, doesn't go bang like they all did in the last few hours of the race last year. Oh, it was a cruel race last year.
Yeah, what drama, but what a horrible way. You felt so sorry for the Peugeot guys. They really did everything they had to do, and were cruelly robbed. So I really hope whoever wins, that's not how the race gets won or lost this time.
Well, it's sort of like the Scottish Premier League in football, isn't it? You just have two big things slugging it out the top, and then you can just enjoy all the action that's happening beneath it, treating it as a sort of separate series altogether.
I believe St Mirren are running a Courage this year.
Yeah, Cowden Beath have got a spiker going.
But your orange Aston Martin was a thing of utter beauty. But the orange and blue Aston Martin AMR 1 that Aston, a pro driver, running this year is a thing of great ironing board with a set of roller skates underneath it. It's a hideous looking thing, isn't it?
It's not pretty.
The previous car was gorgeous, that Lola base thing, but this one, how's that going to work? If it don't look right, it ain't going to go right. That's what I was saying.
Well, it hasn't been going right. Exactly, yeah. They completely failed in the World Test day.
I could be wrong, but they went to the test session and it was going so badly they just packed up and left. Yeah. I've never heard of that happening before.
Well, there was quite a good reason for it, though. As I understand it, the explanation they gave was that there was a problem with the lining of the engines,
Melting.
the cylinder linings, and they realised that because this had happened on one engine, it was going to happen on all the others because they're all the same, so there was no point in carrying on. And to their credit, Dave Richards came out almost immediately. He didn't, say, "Oh, we've got to investigate this." He just came straight out and said what had gone wrong.
Really screwed up.
Yeah,
sorry, we're off.
Mind you, the Mini's going well. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Do you know the engine in this car? It's a straight 6. Is it turbocharged or supercharged? Turbocharged, I think. But it's a straight 6. So here's the question: where on earth has that engine come from? I'm just wondering, because the V12 that they had last year, is it one half of the V12, which is, if you like, 2/4 of a Mondeo block, then? Is it what it is?
But if it was half a V12, it would really make it a slant 6.
But then you can just tilt it upright.
Well, yeah, no one
Hey!
Like the old Triumph Dolomite engine, which was sort
canted.
of, half of a Stag V8.
Yeah.
Or vice versa, but I think some of the key parts of it would be slightly skew-if, but I don't know, maybe not. Maybe they could change the bottom end on it. When people always say, "Oh, well, that engine is just two blank or blanks joined together," or "that's just half a blank or blanks," usually it's not, in as much as the block will have to be different because the characteristics demanded of different configurations need different characteristics from the block, and the balance and the strengthening and all the rest of it.
And the weight of the
cooling water flow around, all kinds of
exactly.
things.
And what it means is that you've got like a V6 and maybe a V8 or something. I mean, V6 and V8 very rarely share the same V angle, so they're not usually related. But if you've got modular engines, it's usually things like bore centres that just means the same machines can bore them out. And that's about as close as the relationship gets. So that's straight 6. Who knows? I don't know. If you live in the area around where ProDrive are based, so Banbury in Oxfordshire, and you've been trying to sell an old BMW 3 Series, like a 325 or something, and then a mysterious buyer who seems to have a beard, but then sometimes for some angles he doesn't have a beard. And he sometimes he says his name's Dave, and then when you meet him he says it's David, and he can't seem to decide. And he's bought your car off you for the asking price, and then driven off cackling. Then maybe we have our answer.
That's what's in that car. Driven by a Welshman. One of them is driven by Andy Mayrick, although whilst born in Chester, considers himself Welsh. We'll have that. This side of the D, he's Welsh. So I wish him well in that, but my trouble is...
He means the D River, by the way. It's not like we have a D like on a snooker table.
The River D.
Zog and I stand on one side and Gareth's on the other, waiting to queue up.
So we've got Merrick in one. Guy Smith is driving one of the...
Rebellion Racing.
Yeah, Speedy Seba, now the Rebellion Racing. Did you know Rebellion are just a Swiss watch company? It's just they're the sponsors. It's the name of the team. It's like calling the team Tissot or Hublot or something. I didn't know.
Tissot. Isn't it Tissot?
Sorry, Tissot. Yeah. It's a Welsh pronunciation.
Okay.
Yeah. And my mate Neil Yarney's in the other car, and that car looks fantastic in that gold and red and white. It looked great last year. It looks even better this year. And they've got Toyota engines this year, which they could be in there if one of the big guns fails. The big Peugeot Audi thing, they could be in there. I'd be very happy. Who else is at Le Mans this year? Oh, Flaming Lotus, Jet Alliance team. Lotus with my mate Johnny Molan will be in the car.
With the Evoras, which were respectable at Spa. There's really quite a good field in the GT category. I've got to say, I'm still completely confused by this whole GTE, GT Pro.
Oh God, I was hoping you could explain it.
No, it's easy.
Haven't got a clue.
There's a category at Le Mans this year in which you're allowed to race if you own either a Vauxhall or Astra Sport model from the 80s or the 90s. Yeah, it's called GTE. Apparently, have I misread the rules?
I think we may need to double check that.
But we've got Ferraris, Porsches, Lotus, BMW, Corvettes, all fighting it out in GT. That's going to be a great little race to follow, I think.
Yeah.
We'll be there. If you want to come and stay where we're staying, go to the GarethJones.tv website, follow the link on the page for this particular episode of Gareth Jones on Speed, and we'll put a link to... You might find
I'm
that
not
there's a
staying where
space
you're
left.
staying there.
You're not. You're staying in a big Hosh Hotel.
It's not a big Hosh Hotel. I'm staying in a warehouse that has beds in it. But
a dormitory.
You're breaking into a French branch of DFS or something.
Yes, it's a bed warehouse, and you just put one of the mattresses on the floor, take the poly wrap off it, and Bob's your
builder.
Yeah. Exactly.
This is, I think, the 79th running of the Le Mans, I think, this year, which means it was the 59th 20 years ago, which makes it the 20th anniversary of the only Le Mans win by a non-reciprocating piston engine-equipped car. In other words, Mazda won with a 787 787B 20 years ago with Johnny Herbert driving.
With the rotary engine.
With a rotary engine, a 4-cylinder rotary engine. Oh, sorry,
four-rotor.
Yeah, 4-rotor rotary engine. A car number 55, designed by Nigel Stroud. It raced in C2 class, because in 91, that was the first year that the World Sports Car Championship ran to the new 3.5 litre rules, and that Le Mans was actually around in that, so they were Group C cars. Are you following this so far? But they'd commissioned these new rules, and a bunch of manufacturers had come up with new cars, but there was a dearth of cars, so they allowed the previous generation of Group C cars to run, and they were called C1, I think. And then when it came to qualifying, instead of putting all the cars on the grid depending on how quick they were, they put all the C1 cars ahead of the C2 cars. So it completely shuffled up the grid in a very bizarre way. But the reason apparently Mazda were able to win this race was not on the outright pace of a rotary engine, but on, wait for it, you're going to laugh at this, it's economy.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What used almost no petrol, but over 700 gallons of oil.
There was some complicated ruling which Le Mans ran to in this particular year, whereby the C-Class cars were allocated a certain amount of fuel. And this Group C cars weighed 1,000 kilograms, but for some reason, Mazda had managed to convince the ACO to allow them to run their 787B at 850 kilos, which suddenly made it fantastically more economical to run than the big Tom Walkinshaw Jags or any of the Porsches still running, or even the Peugeot 905, which had just dawned at that time. So this is an incredible thing. It actually ran faultlessly. The number 55 car won. It only had something like a bulb go and a bearing overheating, which is pretty uncommon for a Wankel engine, really, isn't it? But it won.
And any car really, completing the 24 hours of Le Mans, to have one bulb go and one little bearing is pretty good.
Yeah, unbelievable. The team leader gave the team the instruction to run the race at sprint race pace, knowing that the others, if they tried to keep up, would use so much more fuel because they were so much heavier, and would brake. And basically all the other cars broke. And it wasn't until 20 hours into the race that Mazda suddenly realised, we could win this race, because they started from something like 18th with that car on the grid, way down the grid. I mean, not that it matters that much in Le Mans, but usually the top guys are at the front. But on this occasion, the idea that Mazda won Le Mans on a thrifty rotary engine is completely akin to everything we know about having driven RX-8s and RX-7s ourselves and how thirsty they are. Delicious.
If I'm understanding the story correctly, it was the thriftiness of the engine enabled by a 150 kilogram advantage.
That was part of it, yes.
It's quite 15% lighter than the other cars. That's going to give you a fair, big difference.
So if you've got an RX-8 and you're troubled by its fuel economy, then simply take all the doors and bonnet and boot off.
There you go.
And some of the seats out. And you too could enjoy Le Mans winning performance.
As Johnny Herbert and Bertrand
As endorsed by Johnny Herbert.
And who was the other guy? Volker Wiedler. Or Fiedler. I don't know. Volker Wiedler. That's how you say it, isn't it? Extraordinary. Congratulations to Mazda for 20 years ago.
We're a bit slow. We're like those people who don't send out birthday cards till after your birthday. We're one of those lot, aren't we?
I'm hoping that we get to see a 787B running at Le Mans this year as part of the 20-year celebrations. I don't know. I haven't checked the schedule, but I'm hoping that's going to happen. And I'm going to leave you with a song inspired by the success of Mazda 20 years ago, indeed the joys of them developing the rotary engine. This was Richard.
Goodbye.
This was Zog.
Goodbye.
And this is the Supra Fiery Cannonballs. See what I did there? And their song, my song, which is called Reciprocating Pistons. See ya.
I know piston head, know that someone else instead. They like camshafts, and I'm the one who's bound. But if it came to a point where I had to make a decision, I would likely suffer howls of derision. 'Cause I don't want no reciprocating pistons. I don't want no reciprocating pistons. I'm banging on about it, but nobody listens. Let's say goodbye to reciprocating pistols. They've done a sterling job for a century or more, but in terms of their efficiency, their strategy is poor. They've had their ups and downs, they are noisy when in towns. The belief going round is they've reached their upper bounds. 'Cause I don't want no reciprocating pistols. I don't want no reciprocating pistols. I'm banging on about it, but nobody listens. Let's say goodbye to reciprocating pistols. Solve the issue of the chatter marks problem. They are so much better now with Teflon seals on them. This is my cheap bugbear, it really rankles. The idea I propose is we look again at wankles. 'Cause I don't want no reciprocating pistols. I don't want no reciprocating pistols. I'm banging on about it, but nobody listens. Let's say goodbye to reciprocating pistols. 'Cause I don't want no reciprocating pistols. I don't want no reciprocating pistols. I'm banging on about it, nobody listens. Let's say goodbye to reciprocating pistols.
To send us an email, see pictures, get song lyrics, join our Facebook fan site or follow us on Twitter, go to GarethJones.tv. Gareth Jones on Speed is made in London by Whiz Bang.
Gareth Jones on Speed!